And we are live. Hello, everybody. Alisa Meredith here. We are going to be talking today about coaching, business coaching. And in fact, we're going to be eavesdropping on an actual coaching call with our wonderful guests. We have Jenny Melrose. Jenny is a business and blogging coach, and she's going to be conducting the coaching call. Jenny helps bloggers, influencers, and entrepreneurs to find confidence, focus their energy, and implement strategies that put them on the express track to thriving, successful businesses. And she is the host of the Influencer Entrepreneurs podcast. So if you just can't get enough of Jenny today, please check her out here. And our willing volunteer to be the subject of our call today is Dara. And Dara is a blogger and influencer. You can find her at therootsofhome.com or on Instagram, which is where I usually see all her beautiful things, The Roots of Home. So if you have never done a coaching call, this should be especially interesting. If you have questions, as always, please drop them in the comments. We have Brian is here. Brian's always here. Thank you, Brian. Good evening. He's in Barcelona, just so we can be a little jealous. But yeah, thank you and welcome. Thanks for being here, you guys.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So I've never done a business coaching call, not an official one. So I'm really curious to see what it involves and what we can get out of it. So can you explain to us like who you typically work with?
Yes. So I typically work with women entrepreneurs that have a blog or some form of, whether it's a podcast or it's a blog, but they are also actively trying to promote their content on social media and organically grow their audience and their monetary, what's coming in monetization wise. So I ask questions, dig out the information that I need to understand of what needs to be kind of filled in for their foundation, and then just kind of move along so that they can continue to scale their businesses with different strategies that we put in place based upon the information that I dig out from asking them questions.
All right. That sounds very interesting. Okay. And we have Holly here from Halifax. Oh, Halifax. I wonder if there is any snow up there. It can be so beautiful up there. So pretty. Okay. So let's just jump in if you're all right with that. Yeah. Okay. So you've met Dara. Yeah.
Yes. This is within the last 5 to 10 minutes. So that people that are watching are kind of like, oh, she's worked with her in the past. I have not worked with Dara in the past.
That's true.
So Dara, I'm just going to ask you a bunch of questions so I can get a better understanding of your business, and then we'll kind of see where it takes us. So first, how long have you been blogging for?
I started blogging in 2015, and I took about a year off, 2019-ish.
Okay, so you've been consistent since 2009, so 19, 20, 2021. You've been consistently blogging. How often do you put out content on your blog?
Inconsistently. That is my biggest problem.
Okay. Inconsistently, like once a month, or inconsistently once or a week?
Probably I'll go like in spurts where I get inspired or I have a lot to talk about in what we're doing around the house or projects. So I'll do 3 or 4 in a row, 4 in a month, or then I'll skip a month and do one. So very inconsistent.
All right. That's okay. That works. As far as traffic that is coming to your site right now, where does it primarily come from? Google, Pinterest?
Google and Pinterest, and some from Instagram is pretty consistent too.
Okay. Are you keyword researching your topics before you create your blog posts? Okay, if you're not, just for those that are listening and go, oh my God, she just asked about SEO. Do you?
I try to.
Okay.
I'm working my way through a keyword class just to make sure that I'm doing it correctly. But yes, I haven't in the past, but I am trying to incorporate more SEO.
All right. So the content, when you say in the past, when would you say you've started doing your keyword research? What year?
Probably in the last 6 months.
Okay, perfect. So have you gone back and updated any old content yet?
I'm working my way through doing that right now. I rank pretty highly for um, pine floors because that's what we've done so often here. And so I'm scared. I don't know. I'm kind of frozen in that way because I don't know, like, should I go back and touch those or just leave them? So I'm a little bit, I don't know. I have a lot of issues with SEO and like, I don't want to mess anything up by going back
Yes.
and updating the wrong thing.
Yes. And I understand that. I have a lot of clients that feel the same way. They get nervous with it. Do you look at Search Console at all to see the specific long tail keywords that you're ranking for?
I just set up Search Console, so I'm just now familiarizing myself with it.
Good. Okay. So this is what I actually think would be helpful, just really quick. Walk me through your process of doing keyword research. What are you using in order to do your keyword research? Are you using SEMrush or Ubersuggest or anything like that?
I use Ubersuggest.
Perfect.
And then I also will go to Google and just do a Google search, and I try to see like how other people are wording things. And the people often also ask type of questions that relate to whatever project I'm doing also.
Excellent. Okay, because that's a big, huge piece of it is that when you are using Ubersuggest to kind of see the questions, because Google will tell you what questions people continue to ask. So including those in your post, making them a header that's going to kind of stand out. So normally H3, H4 tag. That'll help too with making sure that they find that question in there, that Google sees you answering it. So you're doing your keyword research, which is excellent. I would definitely suggest when you're looking at older content, if there's one particular post that just is 90% of your traffic, I would be careful touching it, like you said. Instead, what I would look to do is I would try to link back to that post if you create content that is similar or can add on to that. You never want to create content that's going to actually be in competition with it, but you can have a long tail keyword that is pieces of that you can continue to just be seen as that resource for floors or pine floors or whatever else it is. So if you're already ranking for pine floors, then looking at what other projects are you doing that you could continue to talk about your floors. I know you said before we got on that you've been renovating your house, you're working on the floors. So if it's, and this is where coaching for me gets a little like you'll watch me not know what terms to use or the right words because I know nothing about DIYing. I barely know what the names of tools are. So when we're looking at floors like laminate, or if there's other things, like that's the only word I can think of right now, that you could possibly rank for so that you can be seen as that person that's a go-to for updating your home, especially if it's a particular like decor so that you can really niche yourself. So if it was a farmhouse or a cabin or whatever, or a beach house, whatever it might be. So that way you're really niching yourself. Those people see you as that resource. Okay. So that kind of gives me a better feel for keywords and SEO. Here's my next question. Email list. Are you? That's why I hesitated because I knew I was going to get that. Okay. Are you growing one?
I am, but I don't email them.
Okay. That's okay. We're going to talk about that. Who do you use to email?
MailChimp.
And what do you give your people in order to get their email address?
Nothing.
Okay. So this is one of the fastest ways that you can continue to grow your email list. Okay. Mm-hmm. Your email list is a gold mine. It is the only thing other than your blog that you own. We can talk social media and I can tell you do this on Pinterest and do this on Instagram and do this on Facebook, but they can turn around and change the algorithm and it is gone. So you don't want to solely put all your effort onto rented property. Instead, grow that email list because now every time you put out a new post, you can get eyeballs on it right away by emailing your list and letting them know that you have new content that's come out. You've also been blogging since 2015, which means that you probably have a plethora of past posts that you could be sending your list to, even though it's not new. They're not going to know that. So continuing to get traffic on those posts It's going to help as far as possible ad revenue. It's also going to help when Google sees a new post come out and it starts getting traffic right away. It's kind of that social proof that Google looks for, that, hey, this is something valuable. People are staying on the page longer. All of that comes into effect when they're looking at, how to rank something.
I want to say, just in case, just in case Dara's feeling a little bit like, ooh, I should be doing more. I have a very similar issue. Like, I have an email list, and generally all I do is send messages about the live coming up. Blog post comes out. That is not my first thought. It should be. I'm glad you're here, Jenny.
And honestly, as far as you said about not being able to do it consistently, and I think that's largely because you're doing huge projects. Mm-hmm. You're not doing a tiny little recipe that takes you 20 minutes and you can shoot your photos and then go post it. Right. You're doing these projects that take months for you to be able to show. So what I might start looking at is, I'm going to go back to the email list, but I wanted to go to the content first because it's going to go along with the email list, is that when you're looking at your content calendar, you're looking at the projects that you're doing, look at the questions about that project and see if it couldn't be a smaller blog post. Something as basic as, how do I sand my floors? So it's like a step within your big project of redoing your kitchen floors. What are the little tiny pieces that people are still probably looking up that you could see what the search volume is and do your keyword research on that and show it as a piece of it? The how-tos would be my guess as someone that doesn't do any of this kind of stuff. That's what I would need to start with. I would have to look at, how do I figure out, I just saw the comment come across. How can I how can I get to the end result of these floors? Maybe it's, how do I cut something? How do I get the right cement?
Yeah. And let me just say, like, if you've been on Dara's Instagram, The Roots of Home, you've noticed that she does a really good job documenting what you're already doing, Dara. So you have that content and you know how to use it on Pinterest. And so if you just add that blog piece in, that's a great idea, Jenny.
That is. I think that I've had that block. Like, I can't blog about this until it's done, and then I do like a huge blog post with information of how to do whatever I'm doing. And so that's really I think that's a game changer of like breaking it up into individual blog posts, and then maybe do a giant one at the end.
Yes.
And link to everything.
Yeah, and that was what I was just going to say. Link to everything. Everything, like you do one piece of it, it links to this other piece. It links to this other piece. And then the final project, if you're looking for this and how to do your floors, and everything is intertwined. There's no, what do they call it? Solo, that's not the right word, but any little post sitting by itself, not linked to anything. Mm-hmm. Ideally, what you want your blog to be is this web that just keeps showing Google that you have all the answers for how to do certain things. Okay. Things that you do. Okay, so let's go back to the email list, because I know obviously someone was watching and said, yep, I squirmed too. I did too. So for those that don't know, I had a website. I had it for 10 years. I had the Melrose family, created quick and easy recipes and projects. And for me, the email list was something that was like the last thing I did. And it was probably the biggest mistake I made, because your money is in your list. Having that not only to continue to drive traffic, but if you are going to monetize, not only by ads, but sponsorships, they want to know about your list. They want to know your click rate, your open rate. They want to see so that it's more valuable to them if you have a larger list. The other piece, you ever want to do a product. 2022 is going to be all about making yourself as an expert. So how can you show that you are the expert? And to some people that makes them squirm, because you're like, I'm not an expert. I'm just doing what I love. It started off as a hobby. I get it. That was me as well. But your people are coming to you for a certain thing. And sometimes it even helps to like go to your people that are in real life, know you, and ask them, hey, what am I really good at? Like, if you had a question about something and you need an answer, what would you come to me about? Because that often will set something up in your mind, and it will set you up as that expert in your own mind. So when we're looking at growing your email list, what you want to be able to do is you want to create an opt-in or guide that is going to be able to be given to the people in exchange for their email. And the guide doesn't have to be a 30-page ebook, nothing crazy like that. What would you say, Dara, is the biggest question that your people, your audience asks you on Instagram, via email, in your comments on your blog? What's your biggest question you get asked?
I don't know. And I think that's why I haven't created. I know I'm supposed to have something as an opt-in, but I can't figure out what to do.
Okay.
So I feel like I'm a little bit all over the place. I talk about dollar store crafts. I talk about living in a log home or log cabin stuff or renovating a house or, I am not niched. I'm kind of everything. I do recipes. So that's why I think that's the problem is I haven't nailed down, like, what am I an expert on except for pine floors? And I don't know that everyone coming to my blog is looking for that because there's a lot of other stuff there.
Yes. Okay. So then that is where I would definitely start is I would sit down and not even take a look, not even worry about what they're coming to me for, but what do you see yourself as the expert in? If you were to have to tell someone what it is you do and who you do it for, I don't want it to be a list of things. I want it to be a sentence that tells me, like I said, for the Melrose, when I create quick and easy recipes and projects for busy parents. And if I were to sit down and talk to someone else, I always give people an exercise. It's actually one of the exercises that I have in my book is that you want to picture yourself as if you've just sat down on a plane when pre-COVID, let's just pretend. And someone said to you, what is it you do? And I want you to be able to ask them a question that hits on the pain point that then you give the answer for. So if someone said that to me years ago when I had just the Melrose family, I would have said, you know how you feel like you just want to have that time back with your family to be able to enjoy them, be able to sit down, enjoy a meal, and not feel like you're running in 18 different directions and still have those special moments with them? Well, over on the Melrose family, I create quick and easy recipes and projects that give you the opportunity to have that as busy parents. So it's that question that hits in the pain point of what they're suffering with, and then the answer solves it and tells me who I'm solving it for. Now, I, like you, was a lifestyle blogger. I was all across the board. And then over the years, I started pushing and going more towards food because I enjoyed it more. I enjoyed creating that content. I found that my audience enjoyed that content, and it was just what the site became. So when I used to describe myself to people in real life, I told them I was a food blogger. I didn't say I was a lifestyle blogger because they didn't understand that. But thinking about looking at all your content, trying to niche yourself and get more specific on what it is that you do. When I looked at your Instagram, in my mind, you were a DIYer, no questions asked. And you were, for me, not even like a DIY or make a craft. You were like big home renovations. That's the way that I saw your content. And based on your Pine Floor audience, I'm assuming that that's what they're coming to you for.
Yes. At some point, we're going to run out of that, though, because we're just doing our house. Yep. So I think that's my question for myself, too, is at some point, we're not going to have these giant home projects to do. And so then I've got to figure out what else do I blog about. But that's just something I have to figure out.
So go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I just because I know Dara, I know that one of her idea pins took off in a crazy way on Pinterest. And which one was it? Was it your silver chargers?
Yeah, I was painting dollar store plastic chargers to give it like a farmhouse look, and then I stenciled it. And yeah, it went nuts.
Yeah.
So I think it's at like 10 million views or something.
Yeah, and like 10,000 followers or something, or 8,000.
I went from 2,000 followers on Pinterest to I think I'm at 24,000 now. All because of that one pin.
Yeah. I guess my question would be based on what Jenny is talking about. Like, do you love doing that? Like,
I
is that
do.
something you want to do after your
Yeah.
pine floors are done? Okay.
Yeah. Because right now I don't have a house to decorate because it's just been complete disaster for 2 years, 3 years. So at some point, I guess I have to transition into more decor type things along the lines of frugal decor.
Yes, that was an frugal. I was going to say affordable. That's your niche, definitely. I think. So creating that home decor, those DIYs though, that kind of build into that, and then of course you're also going to have. You said cabin, and then I thought you also said farmhouse. So is it? Tell me more about that.
I live in a log cabin, so it kind of. I have in the past tended toward farmhouse or more primitive. However, that is not really. I've discovered that's not really what I like. So I'm. It's going to be different when I start decorating again. More and actually, it was before. It was like our house flooded, and that's the problem. So we were done, and then we had to start over with the renovations. So anyway, that's kind of where I am. Like kind of in a transition point. I'm going more modern, colorful than I was before. So
Okay.
I'm all over the place.
No, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with pivoting and starting to bring that audience with you. The biggest thing that happens though when we do that is we have a possibility of losing people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they come and they don't know what to expect, and they were coming for pine floors, and now they're looking at modern decor or whatever it may be. So trying to figure out where you're going to put yourself and what you really want to do and can see yourself continuing to do. I think content wise, you can, and if you have photos on Instagram, if you have things that you have done that you would have a photo for that was from 3 years ago, that's a process shot or that's a piece of it, like we talked about before, that you could create an actual post for because people are looking for that solution when you do your keyword research. I would highly recommend filling that in and giving more robust content and value about that. And then, like you said, the frugal decor kind of moving forward and what kind of style it would go into.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think that's where your opt-in can come in, is showing them, maybe it's 5 frugal ways to decorate your home with farmhouse decor. Something as simple as that. And your opt-in is then going to describe how you're able to do that. What would be 5 suggestions that you might give in order to do that? Create it in Canva, you download it as a PDF, and then MailChimp has the ability to be able to deliver it when they put in their email address. So that would definitely be an action item that I would absolutely give you, is really start to try to brainstorm what would be the right opt-in for your audience. And also, like you said, where are you looking to go in the future with your content so that it can continue to grow?
Sounds good.
Yes. And I know when you hear those things, they sound like big things, but honestly, it's one of the things that a lot of people miss, because when you started your blog, Dara, did you start it kind of as a hobby?
Yes. I kind of just wanted to document how we were renovating our house.
Yes. And honestly, that's how I started too. And it's harder sometimes because we're just creating the recipe that we're making for dinner and it becomes a blog post, right? We didn't have any intention. But if we want to have the ability to be able to monetize and continue to grow, we see 6-figure bloggers, 7-figure bloggers talked about all the time. They're very niched. They know who they're talking to. They know their people, so that they can then look at, okay, it helps with sponsorships for brands to be able to say, oh, we know who she is. She is the perfect fit. Now, obviously, Dollar Store, Dollar General, all of those places would be perfect for you. And there's others as well, I'm sure, moving forward as you really establish yourself within the niche that you want to be within.
And I'll just give you a little encouragement for the opt-in. I know Jenny already said it, but yesterday I knew I was going into a Facebook group to talk about Pinterest ads. And I thought, why don't I have an opt-in to get these people on my list? By the time I got on that show, 45 minutes or an hour later, I had my opt-in. I had set it up, the workflow through, I use MailerLite and created the thing in Canva, and it looks great. And so you can do that. It doesn't take long.
A lot of, honestly, what we're talking about today is figuring out your positioning and how you're going to stand out so that people really understand who you are, not only from the standpoint of your audience, but also for brands if you want to be able to do sponsorships. My book that I have, Influencer Entrepreneurs, is the name of it. It actually walks you through these exercises in order to figure out your positioning, how to stay authentic, and also to have confidence and kindness in what you are creating. And there is a free workbook actually on my website. You go to jennymelrose.com and you'll see book up in the top right corner. And there's a free workbook that actually walks you through all of these pieces that we're talking about. These exercise, that exercise I gave you about sitting on the plane and being able to ask that question. That's honestly where I would really start, is get clear on who you want to talk to, how you're going to solve their problem. Because once you do that, products start coming to mind. Oh, I could create an ebook for this. Oh my goodness, I could do a course with that. I could do a membership for this. And it's much easier to then know how to get people to, what content to continue to create so you continue to attract them.
Yeah. Here's a great comment from Holly, who said that she recently looked for how to make new wood look like barn boards.
I can do that.
That's awesome. And that it's like Brian says, everybody is more of an expert than somebody else in some area. We all have that. Even if we're just a little bit advanced from our audience, we can still be incredibly helpful.
Yes. It's all about being 2 steps ahead. That's all that it is. You just need to be 2 steps ahead of your audience. So knowing that and being able to create that content is only going to continue to help them. And I know a lot of people, when I say create a product, they kind of get squirmy because they're like, oh crap, that means I got to sell it. It's not really sales though. It's having a solution to a problem. And if you don't put out that product or put out that answer to them, it's selfish because they're not able to actually solve their problem. And you do have the answer. So thinking it along the lines of, I have the answer, I've gone through this, how can I put it out there and solve their problem?
Okay. I think a lot of it is confidence too. Like, I am an expert in something. Having the confidence to think that.
Yes. And that honestly is a female trait. We grew up thinking that we needed to be quiet, we needed to be reserved, we needed to be meek and humble. That was the way that most of us were raised, especially those of us who I think we're relatively the same age. So because of that, we still don't like to, we think of it as gloating and being overconfident and trying to, in reality, it's not. And honestly, so in my book, I have a PACK framework. It's called PACK. We talked about the positioning. There's an authenticity. There's a confidence, an entire section on confidence, because it is such a huge piece of being able to run our own business. We have to have that confidence, and it's not something that we're born with. It is like a muscle where we have to work at it and get more confident and be more comfortable sharing and saying who we are and what we do.
Yeah.
I just want to share. So I paint for fun, and people will say, "Oh, I love this" or whatever. And I am always thinking, yeah, but if you saw the person who I got the idea from, you would know that I don't know what I'm doing, and theirs is much better. But I think to build my own confidence, what I could do is I could start to teach other people and realize that, yeah, there is a thing that I can do that not everyone can do. Even if I'm not the best at it, there's still value in what I have to give, and that's the same with you.
Yes. And everybody there could very well be someone that saw that original piece, Alisa, that would say, that's intimidating. I could never do it because it's too perfect. That's honestly what I have with a lot of my food bloggers, is they will do this gorgeous cake and they're like, but it's gorgeous, it's beautiful, why doesn't it get traffic? And I'm like, well, because as a mom that has 2 kids running around, I see that picture and go, I can't do that. Moving on, next. And so sharing and showing, like you said, teaching them how to do it is like a huge piece.
Right. Well, we've got Phoebe Moon is here. Phoebe's one of our regulars. She does a lot of these things, but she's not organized. She has lots of opt-ins, though. Has a very engaged mailing list. Do you have any suggestions on how to organize all of this that we're supposed to do?
Yeah, so I think it really comes down to your systems in that case. I am a huge proponent of Google. I use Google Drive for literally everything in my business. I have a folder for almost everything, and then there's all pieces within it. The copy, the ideas, the calendars, the everything is within Google, and just knowing what your system is going to look like that. So if you're going to, like you said, you're emailing your list consistently, personally, I email my list 3 times a week, and we do a resend the following week on all 3 of those emails that didn't open up their list. So we are ahead in making sure that there's content that's going to be going out. They're making sure that we are answering questions, and answering questions that are relevant, I think, is important too. So when you're looking at staying consistent and getting organized, it's really knowing your systems and how you do certain things. I've definitely found for myself that theming my days is important. So if I'm working Monday through Friday, I have very specific hours that I work because I had the bad habit of constantly working because I love what I do. And my girls would say, "You're always working." And that's not the way that I wanted it to be. So came up with work hours, and then I theme my days so that Mondays I'm doing my coaching calls, Tuesdays I'm running masterminds, Wednesdays I'm doing all my podcast interviews, and just making sure that everything is getting done in a way in which I'm not changing my thought process. So I'm not going from doing a podcast episode and then turning around and having a bunch of coaching calls behind it, because my energy is going to be different. I'm not necessarily going to be able to focus on the client that's specifically there if I was just focusing on trying to make sure that I was a good podcast host, asking the right questions, continuing a conversation. So looking at how you can implement the tasks that you have in your day and keep it organized that way. The other thing that I would recommend for that is if you're in a place in your business where you can start to hire out for some things, you need to look at it as not necessarily only an investment in your business, but it's your time. How valuable is your time? And what would be that price tag that you would put on an hourly rate that you're able to make from that? Look at the tasks that are taking up all of your time and start to hire it out for it. Because what you could charge, what someone else may charge to do that task is probably going to be less than the money you could potentially be earning if you were doing what you're great at within your zone of genius and making sure you're continuing on that path.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I think I learned that lesson probably too late in my entrepreneur career, that I should not be billing people. I should not be just keep me away from the money, because I'm going to mess it up and I don't want to do it anyway.
Yep. And that's the easiest place to start, is to think of the tasks that you despise doing. And can you possibly potentially just hire out for that piece? I think it's really important.
Yeah.
Dara, did you have questions that you wanted to ask me specifically about anything that you had in mind about your site?
Actually, what you just were talking about was my biggest question, is how, between major house renovations, running the house, 4 kids, homeschooling, I feel like I also have a small cabinet business. It's like at the end of the day, I have like 2 hours or maybe I can sneak in an hour here or there when I'm not doing something else. And then I sit and I feel like I'm just spinning my wheels because I don't really have like a set task. Like I'm like, okay, I have an hour. What am I going to do? I'll make some pins, or I'll make a TikTok video, or I'll do that. But it's like I feel like I fly by the seat of my pants most of the time, every day.
That, as a mom, isn't anything out of the ordinary, right? We as moms are just so used to, oh wait, this one's sick. Oh, that one's doing this. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, they just dumped nail polish down the sink. Real true story. Happened last. No, and I do know how to get nail polish off of a ceramic white sink now, but another story for another time. I think when we're looking at that as being that mom and knowing what, for me, it was really important that I created boundaries. I needed to create the boundaries for myself for when I was working, and I also needed to create the boundaries with my family. My kids needed to understand that during the summer, they may be home, but I still have my work hours. They cannot come barging in if it's within those work hours. And they're old enough to understand that. And we had to have the conversation because this one wanted to go to the pool and this one wanted to go to a friend's house. But if we want to do the things that we like to do, like go on vacations and get to do dance for a ridiculous amount every single month, then mommy has to work because that's how things get paid for. That's how this works. And I know in the beginning for me, that was hard because when I started, it wasn't something that I was consistently making income from, right? When I started, I was a full-time inner city school district teacher and my 12-year-old was a newborn. So I get it. You do try to like work those hours in. So if you can't have the set hours, I would recommend sitting down Sunday night and have a running list of the things that you know you have to do during the week, whether it's pinning, whether it's a TikTok video, whatever it might be. And then look at that list and determine what is really needing to be focused. So Amy Porterfield calls it like tiger hour. Like you have to be really focused for writing. That's what needs to be for me. If you need it to be quiet, what that looks like, have its own separate column. Or if it's like a mindless task that you could pin or do whatever, schedule things like that, have a column for that as well. So that when you get these pockets of time throughout your day, you can determine, okay, I can take something off my tiger hour because I got to be focused and I know I'm going to have an hour to myself to be able to get this done and bang it out. Or if it's something that, hey, I've got 2 hours here, but the kids are going to be running in and out and I'm homeschooling at the same time, then that might be something that's more mindless. And I'm going to pull that from that list. So that's kind of how I did organize then. Yeah. Sorry.
I love that.
That's
Anybody
really good.
else? Like, yeah,
That's really good.
yeah. Kind of pick and choose from your list. You don't have to think about what. Yeah. Could you even maybe list them in order of priority of which one's most impactful, and then kind of work your way down?
And I also, something that my daughter and I have, and we were talking earlier, I have a preteen who is very emotional at times, is that you need to eat the frog. So, and she kind of looks at me and was like, what? Well, you need to get the things out of the way that you don't like doing. So it's done. And I think if there's something on your list that you despise doing, you can't hire it out, get it done first in the beginning of the week. So that it's not something that's always weighing on you thinking, oh my God, it's Friday. I put this off, I put this off, and now I got to do it on Saturday. And I know, or you just don't, those bigger things, don't continue to procrastinate on them. So I always tell her, eat the frog.
Yeah, that's good. I have a lot of frogs to eat.
Dara, I have a question. I didn't know you had a cabinet business, or if I did, I forgot. Is that something you want to combine with the DIY or no?
I can. I specialize in helping DIYers buy their own cabinets and but I'm not designing, I'm not installing or any of that. I'm just supplying the cabinets to the DIYers who can do it themselves. So I'm not sure. I haven't incorporated it. I think I've mentioned it a couple of times on my blog, but I haven't like made it its own thing yet.
I love
it's
Jenny's
mostly mouth of word. It's word of mouth.
Yeah.
Local word of mouth is what I'm surviving on right now.
Okay. Well, Jenny is dying to give you her idea. Okay. Let's hear it.
Can it be done virtually or does it have to be done in person?
Oh, definitely virtually is fine.
Okay, so just so I have a better understanding, are you making the cabinets and then sending them? No. Okay, tell me
No,
exactly.
I am a distributor for a really well-known cabinet company, and it started because I needed to get cabinets for my own house, and so I set up a distributorship so that I could buy my own cabinets, and then it kind of just spread word of mouth around my area, like, oh, she can get you good cabinets at a really good price. But I don't want to have like the liability of designing it for them and doing the measuring and all of that. So for a DIYer to come to me and say, I need this cabinet and this cabinet, I put in the order and I sell it to them.
Okay, so that's a service that you offer because you can make money off that, right? So that's a service that I would try to build. What are the questions that people are asking in order to figure out how to pay for cabinets? What are they trying, like, that's content. That's a ton of blog content that you need to create so that you can say, oh, by the way, I can get you those cabinets that you want. Asking, like, are they asking about the angles that it needs to go in? Are they asking about what's the downfalls of white cabinets over farmhouse cabinets? Again, I sound like an idiot when I try to talk about this because this is not my niche at all. But that's what I would do. I would try to think about, like, what does that look like? Because not only could you potentially be making money from the cabinets, selling the cabinets, but I could also see, like, not necessarily design, but some sort of service that you can kind of help walk them through. I would have to dig in deeper to understand what exactly you're doing. But like, I've had clients that are doing, like, they'll decorate someone's house for Christmas and they live in Atlanta and the other one lives in Minnesota. So they're paying for that service for them to decorate their mantle for Christmas. So thinking about potentially what could that look like? The way that they do it, they send pictures. This is what I have. This is what I don't have. And she'll say, okay, you need to balance it this way. You need to have a garland. You need to have ribbon. You need to have da-da-da-da. And this is the way it would look. And they paid for her just to take those pictures and then be able to say, this is what your mantle should look like. These are the items that you need to go do. And she uses an affiliate link to be able to say, oh, here's this one, and here's this, and here's this, and here's this. So it's just trying to get creative and thinking about how you could potentially be continuing to help them. You obviously have an expertise. I mean, to be able to buy cabinets and know where to get them and all that kind of stuff.
So what are the challenges? Do people have to come to you knowing the exact dimensions and the numbers and the type of cabinet they want?
Yes. Like, the way I would prefer to run the business is they already have measured, they know exactly what they want. And so that's why I lean towards more the DIY folks who already have a measure of expertise or knowledge so that they can know how to do it. But maybe I could teach them how to do it because we know how to do that.
You know how to do that? And I wonder if the cabinet maker too would contribute some content that would help you
maybe
become even more of an expert.
I guess I didn't want to have to take the time to go measure people's houses, and I can do this service. I can deliver cabinets from like Virginia to Florida is my area. So I can't go to their house and measure it for them. They have to be able to do that for themselves.
So I see a blog post that teaches them how to measure their cabinets, how to understand like your cabinets, measuring them correctly or what needs to go where, because there's different types of cabinets, I'm sure too, like the insides and what comes out and what doesn't come out or whatever in the inside of the cabinet. I think that would probably help too.
Yeah. Good idea, Holly.
Yeah.
Do you blog about how to take measurements, how to decide on color or style? I bet you could.
So I have that whole untapped area. Would you set up a totally different website for the cabinet? Or
I don't think I would. I mean, as long as you have a way to like check out and could send them to a checkout process or a way to process payment, that's fine. I would keep it as I would just make that a piece of your business, and on your blog, continue to create content that answers those questions that they're having before they need cabinets. and then be able to say, oh, here's the service that I offer, and this is where you can get the cabinets and all that kind of good stuff.
Okay.
Do you think that there's a challenge there with having a zone, like she can only work with people from Virginia to Florida? How would you handle that?
That, honestly, when you said that, that was my only pause, is because then if you probably are getting plenty of hits around traffic-wise coming in from all around the country. One, I would look to see if you can broaden it to potentially be able to serve the entire U.S. And two, I would then post Instagram content using local hashtags and state hashtags for the cabinetry, so that you can start really getting in on hyper local.
That's a good idea. Yeah, I haven't even tapped that whole section yet.
And Instagram is its own beast, of course, right? We probably could have spent another hour just on talking about like Instagram and what to do and how to continue to grow it, because as someone that hated Instagram at the beginning, it is like, I think, one of the most important social media platforms right now, especially. It's what brands are looking for. If you want to do any sort of sponsorships, they are looking to see what your Instagram looks like. And if you're looking to grow, you should be doing Instagram Reels, which I noticed you were doing, which is amazing. Continuing to do that would definitely be helpful. And then also using your stories to get into their DMs. So your audience, talking about the cabinets and what you offer, and then being able to say, well, here's, starting that conversation then in DM, what kind of cabinets you're looking for. Here's a link to take a look at different things, all that kind of stuff.
Okay. So the story would be, I guess I'm just not knowledgeable enough on Instagram. How would you use the stories to get into the DM?
Okay. That's a really good question, because a lot of people hear me say DMs and they go, I'm not doing a hey girl DM. And that's right. Not what I'm telling you to do. But
I didn't think so.
No, definitely not. So the way that I use stories is to continue to tell the content that you would normally do. Stories you want to think about is for the audience that's already following you. So if you, Dara, definitely I would recommend making sure your profile has your closest city to you, so that you can start attracting those people that are in that area to your Instagram account. Then when you're doing stories, so that they're already following you, continuing to tell a story about like how you did your cabinets, or showing the behind the scenes, or something like that. And I recommend getting into DMs by using a poll. So in other words, I might do a poll that says something along the lines, are you updating your kitchen cabinets in the next year? Heck yes, and already did them, or something like that. And then the great thing about the poll feature in Instagram is you can actually swipe up and you're able to see who has pushed on what. So if they said heck yes, then you're able to send them a direct message and say something along the lines of, what cabinets are you using? Have you measured? What is your style? And just continue that conversation. I use polls in probably when I'm on Instagram consistently, which I will be very honest. So if anyone goes to my Instagram right now and looks at it, they're going to go, you're a liar. You haven't been on it in 6 weeks. That's true. I do take breaks, and this is my break time. I have to take break time for myself from Instagram during the holidays, because it's just too much for me. But if I'm doing stories consistently, I'm doing one poll at least per day. And when I'm doing my stories, I'm actually telling a story. I'm not scrapbooking my day. I'm showing something and giving a beginning, a middle, and an end to it, which can take anywhere from 3 slides to probably 15 slides, depending upon what it is that I'm talking about. So I'm going to give you an example, because I'm going to fall all over myself if I try to give a DIY example. An example that I have done for my audience is, I really believe in self-care. I believe in the importance of having a schedule in your day. Something that was also important to me was starting in, it was like last year, was making consistent time for me to work out. So I had posted a picture into my stories of like my yoga mat lined up with my weights before my workout. That's the picture, and it had one sentence across it. The first slide did. And it said something about, my health journey has not always been one that's a clear path to staying fit. My second line was then that same picture with that first sentence with a second sentence. that continued telling the story about my journey, about how I used to be an athlete in college, so I could eat whatever I wanted, didn't have to worry about working out. Third slide had first, second, and now a third sentence. Now I started to draw them in with my workout now always happens right before my day gets started, so I can be at my desk ready to go for my scheduled hours. Next slide then is going to talk to them a bit more about theirs. I want to know their practice. So now I might use a poll that says, what does your workout journey look like? Has it been consistent or has it been all over the place? And then I give them those two options. Then if they said it was consistent, I went and I clicked and I said, how are you able to stay so consistent? Was there a specific program you use? Were there ways that you eat? Whatever it might be. And then if you were all over the place, I would say, go into the DMs then and start to ask them more questions about what have they tried, what are they doing, when do they feel the best, things like that. And the reason that I was trying to talk about that normally, in that instance in particular, was because I had just had someone on my podcast that was there talking about self-care and the importance of having consistency. So now I just did this whole long story. They've been dragged into it with the poll, and now we're talking and having conversations. And then my final slide is saying, if you're looking for more consistency, here's the latest podcast episode. Have you listened yet? Poll again that said, heck yes, or said, I haven't listened yet or already listened. Anyone that said haven't listened yet, I then DM'd them, said, hey, here's the link to the podcast episode. Anyone that said already listened, I then sent them a DM and said, I'm so glad you listened. What did you find helpful? Hey, would you mind leaving a rating and review on my podcast? And of course, they already had answered the poll anyways, so they're more than willing to do that.
I love that.
Calling them and dragging them out and getting them to engage, because it's not like it was years ago where people used to leave comments on your blog and ask and have these conversations. Instagram is a place where you can actually still continue to do that.
True. Holly had an interesting idea. Could you go from that to getting them on your email list?
Yes. Yep. I do polls. Sorry, I couldn't think of the word. Polls for my opt-in as well. So normally if, like, for example, I have an Instagram engagement guide, I'll start by talking about like a different tip that I've noticed about Instagram and Reels, and trending sounds are working really well. And you only have 7 seconds. Are you looking for more information on your how to improve your Instagram? And then I'll do a poll that says, yep, send me the guide, or already have it. And then anyone that has said, yep, I go and send them a DM with the live link. And the great thing about it is that when you get into the DMs, it affects the algorithm because Instagram sees you as friends now. So now your content is going to start showing up more in the feed, and your little story bubble is going to start going to the front of their feed, as well as it's a live link. Whereas if you are adding the link feature that we all now have in stories to swipe up or click on it, it goes away the second they end up off of it. So think about your audience. My audience is in Target with 3 kids, and one of them's trying to climb out of the stroller. So they're not able to take action right when they're looking at stories. So giving them that opportunity to have it in the direct message to be able to come back to it where it's a live link is huge.
Very cool.
Very good.
Yeah. And I like that your example isn't like completely tied to what you do. Like it was tied to an episode of something of your podcast, but it wasn't like I have to stay right with my coaching and mastermind. Like I like that you could go a little bit outside of that.
Yes. I think that that's the first and probably one of the most important things you have to do for stories is decide where your line is. What are you going to be willing to talk about and share, and what are you not going to be willing to talk about and share? And for everyone, that's different, and that's okay. Some people won't talk about their kids. Some people don't want to talk about their husband. Some people don't want to talk about their house or anything personal because maybe they have a law enforcement officer that they feel unsafe because of the times that we've been through recently. Whatever it might be. But you have to decide where that line is. And then I'm fine talking about my weight loss and what it has looked like and my health and what I can kind of pull in. I'm also fine talking about my kids. I did a story that did really, really well because my daughter is not allowed to have social media. And she's 12 and she will not be allowed to have it till she is 18. And a lot of people in real life, and especially too online, say, how can you possibly enforce that? She knows you are all over social media, constantly doing things. How are you possibly going to be able to enforce that? And why are you doing it? And my answer is, I know how it works. I understand how I get triggered as a grown, confident woman. I don't need my 12-year-old getting triggered over something that she interprets the wrong way. And that was a conversation that I had in stories and went back and forth with my audience about, and it was a really great story that had a lot of engagement because people were asking questions and how are you enforcing it? And what are you doing when you notice certain things? There's gotta be pieces of you that you share a little bit, and like Lisa said, not just solely sticking to that niche, but allowing some of the personal stuff to come out that has made you who you are.
I like that. I've been trying that a little bit more on LinkedIn as well. I feel like on LinkedIn, I tend to be very dry because that's kind of how it was, right? It was very professional. And my first post, I even said, like, I'm trying this thing. Let me know if I went too far. And I got so much engagement on it because it was a little glimpse into me. It was scary, but it worked really well.
Yes.
Okay. So I wanted to share some links as we're starting to wrap up here. JennyMelrose.com is where you'll find her blog and her book. And for Dara, The Roots of Home, if you're interested in pine floors and other DIY and cabinets, then that's where to go. And if you're interested in Pinterest ads, so I did that course, but like I just said, I made a sheet. So it's a planning worksheet. It also has a what should I bid formula that people just really love. So I thought I'd give that away for free. It's a bit.ly link, Pinterest-ads-sheet. Grab that if you like. And let me know what you think of it. So if we don't have any other questions, is there like one final suggestion you have for all of us, Jenny? I know, for a little pressure.
Actually, it's not. I always seem to say the same thing. I think that it's really important that when you are looking at your business, that sometimes you put blinders on and don't worry about what other people are doing, because you're going to get sucked into that comparison and imposter syndrome of comparing your journey to someone else's life that is totally different. What a 25-year-old can do that doesn't have kids, that just started 3 months ago, is entirely different, Dara, than what a homeschooling mom of 4 kids is going to be able to do. Right? That's DIYing their entire house. And I think that that's really important no matter where you are. And even that 25-year-old, don't compare yourself to the 40-year-old that's been doing this for 10, 15 years and has been able to grow their Instagram or their audience, whatever it might be. Just focus on your path, your journey, listening to strategies and tips from others, but focusing on what you can make work for you and your life.
Okay.
That's
I can't
excellent.
think of a better way. Yeah, I can't think of a better thing to end on. So thank you so much, Jenny. That was great. If this was helpful to you, but you want kind of some one-on-one, please visit Jenny's website, JennyMelrose.com, because she does this. And I'm really grateful that you were willing to do that with us today. Thank you. And to you too, Dara, for being on the hot seat today. Appreciate it very much. Thanks everybody for being here. I'm thinking about taking a couple weeks off, December 23rd and 30th. Let me know if that would make everyone listening cry, or if you weren't going to listen anyway because you're too busy. And we'll figure it out. Thanks again.